These are the best metal albums of May 2024. I have 20 albums on this list. I'll be ranking this from number 20 to number 1, or my least favorite to my favorite. I have all the albums listed in the video description in alphabetical order. If you want to see the order I rank them, please watch the video in full. With that being said, let's get into this. In at number 20 is Dååth with The Deceivers. This album came out at the beginning of the month. I didn't really revisit it too much. I listened to it again. It was pretty good. It holds up, but it just barely makes the list. I thought it was pretty good. They're supposedly an industrial death metal band, but for me it sounded more like that symphonic metal, similar to that Isan album that came out in the beginning of the year. I thought it was good. This one had some guest stars. I know Jeff Loomis was on one of the songs. I enjoyed revisiting this as well. It's not an album I'm going to go back to often, but I thought it's not too bad. It has a lot of aggressive death metal style vocals, lots of heavy riffs, big symphonic sounds. So if you like that kind of thing, check it out. Number 19 is Crawl with Altar of Disgust. This is a Swedish death metal band. I've heard them being called HM2 death metal, and to be honest with you, I didn't know what that meant, so I looked it up. And it's the name of a guitar pedal to get that specific tone. I think of bands like Entombed, they have that type of sound. It's old school death metal. They have a lot of feedback in their sound. That's what makes them unique. The songs are fast and heavy, lots of low guttural vocals, and I thought it was pretty good.
The song is called Aurora. Let's go.
Number 18 is As the Sun Falls by Kaamos, another Swedish melodic death metal band. They're similar to the band Insomnium. This came out at the beginning of the month. I didn't go back to it often, but I revisited it. It was pretty good. I enjoyed it. This one has mostly low guttural vocals, some clean vocals, a lot of melodic guitar playing, a lot of clean tones. The music is heavy, so if you like Swedish melodic death metal with that classic sound, check it out. Number 17 is The Troops of Doom with A Mass to the Grotesque. They are a Brazilian death thrash band named after a Sepultura song. That's because one of the members was in Sepultura at one point. This is some of that extreme thrash. Sounds like some of the bands that came out in the 80s, such as Slayer and Creator. Some of that darker thrash metal that's leaning towards death metal. Another good band to compare them to would be Possessed. Songs are about dark and evil themes, similar to the first few albums by Sepultura. Some songs sound more like thrash, some sound more like death. There are a few songs that are longer in length, in the 6 to 8 minute range. This one just came out. I haven't spent a lot of time with it, but I've already given it a few listens, and I think it's a solid album. And number 16 is Knocked Loose with You Won't Go Before You're Supposed To. I remember when this album came out, a lot of people were giving it a lot of praise. It's a very heavy and brutal metalcore album. It's a short album, under 30 minutes. I haven't been listening to it that much since its release, but I think it's worthy of being on this list. It's a good album for doing some type of exercise or physical activity. It has a few good songs, such as Suffocate, that has the backing vocals by Poppy. It's good. I don't think it's album of the year material, or for me it's not, but it makes the list. Number 15 is Rhapsody of Fire with Challenge the Wind. They are an Italian power metal band. This is their 14th album and the third in a trilogy, which is part of a whole story which I don't really understand. It has something to do with a black wizard and a bunch of other characters. I've never really listened to this band. I thought it was pretty straightforward. It's typical power metal. Lyrics are fantasy based. Songs have lots of fast drum beats and melodic guitar playing. Type of album that doesn't really stray from the core sound. They're not doing anything you wouldn't expect them to do. There are some songs that are kind of long, such as the 16-minute Vanquished by Shadows. The album in general is over an hour long, so sometimes it feels long, but for a power metal album, it's pretty good. I would say it's on par with most of the power metal being released at this time. I don't think it's anything out of the ordinary, but it's good enough. It makes this list, and for that reason, I have it. Number 14 is Unleash the Archers with Phantoma. This is a Canadian power metal band, and I know a lot of the other channels give this band a lot of praise, although I've never been able to get into them that much. Despite this, I like the album. It was good enough to make the list. There are a few songs I like more than the others. My favorites are Green and Glass, Gods in Decay, and The Collective. I like the band when they have, I like the songs that have harsher vocals mixed with the cleans. I've heard a couple of people say this is one of their best albums of the month. Others say that this one sits towards the bottom of their discography, but for me it's still good and deserving of this list. Number 13 is Cloven Hoof with Heathen Cross. This is a new wave of British heavy metal band. They were around in the early 80s. Then they took a long break. They reformed. This is also my first time listening to this band. This one just came out. It came out on May 31st. I haven't spent a lot of time with it. I thought it was pretty good. They remind me of those British heavy metal bands, but the ones that had a more darker and occult sound. The two that came to mind were Angel Witch and Witchfinder General, but you can also hear a little bit of an Iron Maiden influence on some of the songs, and some songs were moving into power metal territory. Others were traditional heavy metal. Overall, pretty good album. It's also my first time listening to this band. Number 12 is Hellbutcher with Hellbutcher. This is a black metal band fronted by a vocalist named Hellbutcher who was previously in the band NWOBHM. To be honest, it's all new to me. I was completely unfamiliar with this previous band, but this one came out last weekend. It was released a day early, and Metal Blade put it on the YouTube page early, so I checked it out. It's not too bad. It's black metal, but they have some elements of thrash and speed metal, so something I can get into. It's a short album. It's only about 30 minutes long. Very fast and aggressive. It's also their debut album. A lot of songs reminded me of those blackened speed metal bands like Midnight or Hellripper, so it was not too bad. Number 11 is the solo album by Anette Olzon with Rapture. I discovered her when she recorded 2 albums with the band Nightwish. I even ranked her first album with Nightwish as my number 1 album when I did the ranking on the Green Man's channel. I thought it was a good effort. Maybe not as good as the 2 albums with Nightwish, but still a very strong record. It's some symphonic metal, similar to her style that she did with Nightwish. There were a few songs I liked better than the others, so I liked the song Heed the Call, Head Up High, and Rapture. I think she has a great voice, and she shows it on this album. It's a good album, though I would say it has some songs that were much better than the others. Moving into the top 10, we had number 10 with Sebastian Bach, The Child Within the Man. This one was very good. It was the first time I ever listened to one of his solo albums. I was a big fan of Skid Row. Back in the day, this one had a lot of variety on it. Some of the stuff was reminiscent of the stuff he did with Skid Row. Other stuff was a lot heavier than some stuff that was a little more laid back. But there weren't any power ballads or anything like that. I thought it was a good, solid album. He still sounds very good. His vocals have not deteriorated at all over the years. He sings just as good as he did in the 80s. So it's a good album. Number 9 is Demon with Invincible. It's a band that's been around a long time, although it's my first time listening to them. They're a heavy metal band. In my opinion, they're like Deep Purple, but if they were heavier. The kind of music I got from it, there's a lot of heavy guitar riffs, a lot of keyboards that have that specific sound, and there's lots of great songs. Some sounds like arena rock, some more like heavy metal from the 80s, and some is darker, more like Black Sabbath, and some stuff is more like hard rock from the 70s. So, pretty good band. I like the single Face the Master, then another song called Hole in the Sky. Not a Black Sabbath cover, but it did have kind of that Black Sabbath vibe, and that was better than I expecting. I'll listen to this one again. This one held up very well. This one's very good. Number 8 is Riot V with Mean Streets. This band has been around for a long time. They go back to the late 70s. They've evolved over the years. They've changed their name to Riot V or Riot 5. I don't know what it is. They started as traditional heavy metal, but moved towards US power metal, and this one's very good. The song Field of Fire is like one of my favorite songs of the month. It's such a catchy song, but there are a lot of other cool deep cuts. The title track Mean Streets is awesome. Another one called Love Beyond the Grave. The title is kind of cringy, but great song. And it came out towards the first half of the month, so I have been listening to this a lot. Number 7 is Kerry King with From Hell I Rise. This was one of the most anticipated albums of the month. I read a lot of negative reviews of this. I thought it was good. He has an all-star lineup with Mark Osagata from Death Angel, Paul Bostaph on drums, he was in Slayer, Phil Demel on guitars, he was in Machine Head, and Kyle Sanders on bass, he was in Hell Yeah. It sounds a lot like Slayer, mostly a continuation of their sound from the final album, Repentless, but the songs are good. The 2 singles, Idle Hands and Residue, are awesome. Even the other, I think it was a single too, Toxic, that was good. And the deep cuts, Trophies of the Tyrant and Shrapnel were my favorites. Songs are fast and aggressive, no ballads, few instances where they slow down the tempo, but everything in the album is very intense. Everyone in the band plays in top form. I listened to it again, and I thought it held up very well. So for that reason, I have it ranked right here. Number 6 is Jasta with and Jasta for All. So this is a thrash album by Jamie Jasta. You can see on the cover it was inspired by Metallica's And Justice for All, and so is the name of the album. This had a lot of guest stars. We had Scott Ian of Anthrax, Chuck Billy of Testament, and Steve Zetro Salsa of Exodus. A lot of music sounds like that Bay Area thrash from the 80s, but it has that special Jamie Jasta hardcore vocals, and it almost makes it sound like crossover thrash. I like it a lot. So if you like thrash, you like Hatebreed, check it out. I liked it a lot, so I have it ranked right here. Number 5 is Witherval with Sounds of the Forgotten. Then it's hard to describe. They're listed as heavy progressive power metal in the Metal Archives website. To me, they're one of those bands. They play heavy music. It has clean heavy metal style vocals. I think of bands like Sanctuary and Nevermore. But speaking of Sanctuary, vocalist Joseph Michael is the vocalist of Sanctuary currently. And I have some more trivia with this guy. Joseph Michael is cousins with Ronnie James Dio, so that's why he can sing awesome. And guitarist Jake Dreyer has played with Iced Earth and Demons and Wizards as a touring musician. Basically, the songs have lots of different styles on the album. Some songs are more laid back, others are heavy. Sometimes they're dark. They can sound like King Diamond or Merciful Fate. I like the song Insidious. That one has a very epic heavy metal sound. Some songs are similar to like the band Savatage. I think of the song When It All Falls Away. That one sounded like Savatage. Other songs sound like classical music. They play a lot of that classical music, and it just came out, but it's an awesome album. Number 4 is Gatecreeper with Dark Superstition. This is an American death metal band from Arizona, part of that new wave of old school death metal bands, and they've been releasing albums lately. In the past, they've been compared to the Swedish death metal bands like Entombed and Bolt Thrower, but on this album, they moved towards melodic death metal. So this album has a variety of styles. Sometimes it's slow, they play some death doom. Other times they're fast and heavy. Most of the album is melodic death metal. Some can be compared to early In Flames or Amon Amarth, but despite the melodic sound, there are parts of the album that are heavy and intense and still have that OSDM sound. But it's not like full Melodeath, mostly Melodeath, but they just evolved their sound. It's a really great album. I still like it. Number 3 is Evildead with Toxic Grace. This is a classic thrash band. They released, I think, 2 albums in the late 80s, and then they took a long break. They came back in 2020. This is their second modern day album. It's old school thrash metal. It sounds like it came from the 80s. Lots of chugging guitars and riffs, heavy vocals. You could understand all the lyrics, that's good. Lyrics about current events, similar themes, the stuff thrash bands like used to write around, like personal struggles, and some like newer topics, talking about like the internet and hashtags. Some songs are really great. Bathe in Fire, that's a good one. That one has a classic thrash sound. And then Raising Fresh Hell, that's very old school. They're talking about how the band is going to come to your town and kick your ass, and it's a really great album. I gave it another listen, so that's why I have it ranked at number 3 very high. At number 2 is Riding Christ with Pro Christau. This is my sleeper pick of the month. When I first listened to this album, I thought it was boring. I gave it another chance, and it grew on me. This is my first time listening to the band. I know they used to be black metal, but they evolved into some type of gothic or epic black metal band. They're hard to describe. To me, they sound like the type of music you would listen to while like watching a Gladiator movie or playing God of War on a PlayStation, like epic battle metal. A lot of people said the songs sound similar throughout the album, and it's true. But after a few listens, you appreciate each song for what it is. With that being said, I thought it was very good. This is the album I have been going back to a lot this month. I like the epic nature of the album, and for that reason, I have it ranked right here. But that's not my number one. My number one is Freak Kitchen with Everybody Gets Bloody. They are a Swedish progressive hard rock band. That's how they are listed on the Metal Storm website. I found it intriguing. I checked them out. I discovered they've been around for a long time. Their first album came out in 1994. This is their 10th album. Although my first time listening to this band, but the album is awesome. Of all the albums on this list, these songs have been stuck in my head. They're very catchy. They have great riffs. They also have progressive elements, and they do have kind of a commercial sound, but they're still very proggy. The band can sound a little grungy at times. Other times they can get technical, like a band like Dream Theater. Vocals are clean most of the time. Sometimes they can get harsh. I thought the album was solid. The band has a unique style. Not afraid to go into different directions like synth pop or like the song Slip or prog metal on a song like Small Acts of Rebellion. I wasn't expecting this to be my number one, but it's my favorite of the month. So that is all. Check out last week's episode. I talk about some albums that came out last weekend in April. Please subscribe to the channel. I do rock and metal reviews. I do rankings and tier lists, and I have this weekly series where I do lots of bands in one video, and I think I'll continue to do that through the rest of the year. So thanks for watching. See you in the next one.